Welcome to part 24 of our journey through a Weedwife remedy. We are going to not be talking about a specific herb today. We are going to be talking about story and how it sort of relates to herbalism, I guess. Aha! Hello, the crafting Weedwife. You made it. Yes, you did. Congratulations. It's good to have you. I hope you're doing well. So, yes, let us get. Hello, Sonia. Hello. How are you? Let's get to it. For those of you that have the book, I'm up to my elbows in choke cherries. Wow. That's a lot. What are you going to do with them? So we are on page 112 for everyone who has the book. Fix this light. That is a little better. Jelly and syrup sounds yummy. I don't think I've ever had choke cherry jelly or syrup. Are they tart? Okay, that's good. Okay, so we're page 112. And I have our first discussion question to think about as I am, or you can be reading along. Reading today. So the question is, how would you describe your favorite herb to somebody? And then tell us how you met this herb. So briefly, just tell us how you, discovered that this was maybe your favorite plant, or you have a story. Keyword here, story. I'm trying to find my book. Oh no. Yes, so that is the question, and just pop that in the comments. So the chapter is called "The Tales of Old Wives: Myth, Flora, and Culture." I wish I had a better light. What is the question? The question is, so how would you describe your favorite herb to somebody, and tell us how you met this herb. Tell us the first time you encountered it, or a little story about how you fell in love, and just I know it can be hard to narrow down to just one, but pick one if you can't narrow it down. Just briefly, because we're talking about stories today. I really need to figure out a solution for this. Trying to get my light somewhere where I don't have to lean down so no one can see my face. Okay, so this is a quote. It starts out with a quote by Tolkien. Pay heed to the tales of old wives. It may well be that they alone keep in memory what was once needful for the wise to know. I thought that was a really, really cool quote. it just sounds like to me that like stories contain all, they're like little boxes of information that you can like open up and find information. Like they hold. Do you consider rose an herb? Yes, I do, Sonia. Of course. Roses are used all the time in herbalism. So yeah, not just for ornamental. Well, you'll have to go down here. Once upon a time is a phrase that can set a noisy room silent or have every child within hearing distance clamoring for more. The impulse to both tell and to seek out stories is human beyond ethnicity, culture, and age group. I love lemon thyme. Awesome. That's awesome. The crafting Weedwife. That's a good one. They're all good. And how did you like with lavender? So how did you first like sort of, or do you have just a story about lemon thyme and a time where like you know, like, because there was a time when you probably were not using lemon thyme, and then you suddenly did. How did you encounter that? Like, how did you first sort of be like, aha, I love this? You know, like, did you go to someone's house and find it, or just things like that? Or just anything about, tell us why you love it so much. Sonia says, the Three Sisters Rose was probably the first planter herb I remember. My great-grandmother had tons of them in her yard, and always walked around her garden and checked on them and talked to them. Oh, that's awesome, Sonia. So your story also like reminds you of your grandmother too. Crafting Weedwife, nothing exciting. Found it in a nursery and accidentally planted it together with lavender. It's my favorite combination ever. Well, that's awesome. Sometimes these accidents do happen and they work out. Thank you for sharing those stories, guys. And I bet, Sonia, you know, like, since you have that memory of your grandmother, it's just always, so it brings, every time you encounter one of the roses, it brings up both memories. I mean, yeah. We are a species that loves chatter and gossips, whispers and intrigue, fanciful epics and evocative poetry. Driven by the exchange of image and thought, nuance and truth, listen and tell around fires and dinner tables. My favorite? Oh gosh. Yeah, that's a hard one. I like mugwort a lot. I like chickweed, and I like dandelion. The first time I encountered mugwort was in herb school, and I found out that you could also use it to make a smudge stick, and that I really like that because I really like smudge sticks. And when I use the smudge stick, it just made me feel very relaxed and very calm. And I found that it's very like a protector herb. So Sonia, that's what memory I always got of her, and then her strawberry pie. I've been trying to find wild mugwort. We have tons of wild sage here. Do you live out west? Like the white sage? Where I am on the East Coast, it just doesn't grow here. It's too wet. But the mugwort is our sage, and it grows like everywhere. You should be able to find some out west too, because a mugwort does grow. Because the lady who, oh, you're in Canada. Is that okay? I had to look that up. Wow. Okay. British Columbia. So is that on the West Coast or the East Coast? Let's see. I'm sorry. I'm just like, where is it? I need a map. It's giving me directions. Would be really, really funny. Let's zoom out. Oh, okay. You are on the West Coast. Okay. Up above Washington state. So I can see why it would be a little more drier over there, perhaps. But not quite, not in the desert for sure. So you should definitely be able to find some mugwort. West, inland more, yeah. You know, it's always, they never teach us any geography other than your own country. So, you know, it's nice to know where everybody is. It's very, oh, it is very deserty. Okay. Well, you definitely, that's why you can grow the sage there. But there should be a mugwort variety that grows out there. Because like I said, this, where I was going to say, she lives in New Mexico, and she mentions a mugwort variety. So lots of orchards. Nice. So I guess, so my story would be, we had this big, lots of wine and cider too. Sounds nice. I have not spent much time on the West Coast, but we took a trip cross country with a family when I was like 9, which was great. But I'd love to do that again. So yeah, so we had a big oak tree in our yard when I was growing up, and it died of natural causes. It was super old. It was probably like hundreds of years old. It was humongous, and then around the stump, mugwort grew up. So that was like one of the first places that I started harvesting it myself. And I always felt it was really special just to buy that tree, because I love that tree, and it just reminds me of it. It's my mugwort story. Okay, I'm going to continue on page 112. Story and art are direct inroads to even the most inaccessible crannies of the human mind, and thus to cultural perceptions of a subject. When a concept, idea, image, or perspective is repeatedly present in popular literature, cinema, music, or any other art form, it has a virtual effect viral effect as it spreads from person to person, place to place. For better or worse, there's no such thing as just a story. Every legend and tale has an effect upon its audience, whether they think they believe it or not. From each retelling, we take a piece of the narrative that filter into our own experiences and a way of seeing. The best writers and storytellers, and for that matter, marketers, understand the inherent power of the story. And I really feel like commercials really illustrate this point that she's talking about. Probably what comes to mind is like the Roundup commercials with the dandelion on the bottle, and they're like spraying it saying weeds are bad, and hence that's like sort of telling a story about like weeds are bad, dandelions are evil, and it's just sort of everywhere. And you're like wondering like, why did I get that idea? Because it's just it's there. You've seen it like a bunch of times. So perhaps anyone else might have, if anyone else has another example of sort of an idea that like is in popular culture and just sort of like something like that. Sends a message. It doesn't have to be about herbs, but you know, I'm sure there's a lot. Some idea about our society and what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. Mythopoesis, myth-making, that which simultaneously make us human, and that which ties us to the more than human world. Beloved author J.R.R. Tolkien popularized the term mythopoeia, and was beyond both mocked and belittled for it. He was accused of trying to play God through the act of creating and extending existing myths. His response is not widely known, but we will do well to remember it. The crafting Weedwife, my yard is unkept. It drives my neighbors crazy. Do they have like well-kept manicured lawns? Yeah. Why people want to spend so much money on grass on a lawn, I have no idea, Sonia. I mean, we need to get out of that. It's another idea that we need to get away from. Like, it's definitely been popularized in our culture. You know, the house, the picket fence, the lawn. But as we're learning, like, actually, we want a garden in our lawn. We want to grow food. Lawns don't do anything but look pretty. So they're not very functional, and they cost a lot of money. But when I explain to them why they're amazed because it just isn't common knowledge that what they regard as weeds are useful. Yeah, it's really surprising that even, you know, in today's culture, and we think that herbalism and the use of herbs, you know, herbalism and the use of herbs has gotten more widespread, but still, it's not as mainstream as like we think, or a lot of us, including me, would like. And we are going to talk about perhaps how we can help it become a little more commonplace knowledge again, because a lot of this is knowledge that was lost. When I moved here, it was ugly, and I let everything go wild. It's beautiful, lush, and green. Choke cherries are wild in my yard. That's awesome. It sounds great. Yeah, I mean, I stink at gardening, but my lawn has burdock, cherries, rose hips, chicory, plantain, etc. Exactly. I am, well, so, you know, you could also sort of garden loosey-goosey, where, like, you know, not everything has to be in those straight perfect rows, you know. Yeah, I'm also not so good at gardening. I think it's I'm better at like finding the herbs in the wild and wild crafting. So I don't do so well with plants in pots. Like I'm trying, but because I don't have any land. But I was talking to Sama during my last interview for Stories for the Earth, my Stories for the Earth interview. And if you haven't heard it, there's a section where we talk about this gardening, this very straight row idea, you know, and how she does it. And she sort of doesn't do this straight, crazy controlled garden. You know, she lets the plants come in and do their thing, and you know, and I think that's just like, and we were talking about how it was better, it was less stressful, and even better for the garden and better for the soil, you know. And most of the plants that come in, there are a lot of people consider weeds, are actually very helpful plants, either to the plants you have planted, or like the soil and the insects and the butterflies and all that stuff. So anyway, so I just love that idea of sort of a semi-wild garden. I love foraging and wildcrafting. Me too. Me too. And it's really nice to just pop outside your yard and get what you need. It is really better for the soil. Let's all do this. Yeah, I would love to. But I don't have any land right now, but my friend does. So we'll be using her land and her garden and everything. And I use it for wildcrafting now. All right, so my second question, you're renting? Yeah, we are too. We just have a little balcony outside, so I have some pots. But one day we'll have a house. One day. Okay, so the next question, now that we've all sort of told our stories, is what do you guys think the function of a story is? And what does a story do? So just think about that, and I'll keep reading. And this is a kind of a confusing quote from Tolkien. It's written in like a poem, so possibly it's from one of his books. I don't know. I may struggle with reading it, so just bear with me. To one, C.S. Lewis, who said that myths were lies and therefore worthless, even though breathed through silver, in quotes. He sees no stars who does not see them first, of living silver, made that sudden burst to flame, like flowers' breath and ancient song, whose very echo after music long has since pursued. There is no firmament, only a void, unless a jeweled tent, myth woven and elf patterned, and no earth, unless the mother's womb, whence all have birth. The heart of man is not compound of lies, but draws some wisdom from the only wise, and still recalls him. Through now long estranged, man is not wholly last, nor wholly changed. Hello, Raven Morning Glory. Hello, how are you? Sonia says, we are buying, but this place was all pasture grass and no trees. I'm having to plant my food forest. Oh, that's awesome. That's exciting to see that come alive, you know? Yeah, and the land will be, it'll be much better. It'll be awesome when you get it going. All right, so Raven, we're talking about stories today. and stories and sort of how they relate to herbs. And so I asked everyone, how would you describe your favorite herb to somebody? And then tell us how you met this herb, or tell us like a story about this herb, just briefly. And then we're also asking, what is the function of a story? What does maybe a story do? So got some questions today. And I'm at the bottom of page 113 for everyone who has the book. And I highlighted this because I thought this was... As humans, we are deeply flawed and yet still contain the seed of creation within us, as well as the ability to see beauty and wonderment in the world, and then to express it in myriad ways that connect us to each other and to the natural world. That was really cool. Okay, myth, the accumulation of connection. And this is a quote by Martin Shaw. I can't find the vocabulary to articulate the changes I was experiencing. I felt intensely vulnerable and very lonely. What I looked for was some archaic language that would expand words and frame images so bountifully that I felt connected to human folk, as well as kestrels and mud. What I found was myth. Yeah. We humans think stories. We recognize, we humans think in stories. We recognize ourselves and each other as a story. We understand each other's actions and behavior in the concept of those stories. We may think of myth only as that which has happened in the past, but the truth is that the storyline is fluid, woven and rewoven as it is told from one generation to the next, from media to viewer, from book to reader, from experience to retelling. What we identify with the fairy tale Cinderella, whether we identify with the fairy tale Cinderella we read about as a child, or even see our destructive relationship patterns reflected in Eminem music videos. We're all impacted by the myth and stories we are surrounded by. Does anyone have a favorite fairy tale? I really do like Cinderella. The old Disney movies of Cinderella. But yeah, does anyone have what is your, Raven says, I rent, all I have is what grows on the property: honeysuckle, morning glory, lilac, some rows of Sharon. Okay, a couple of trees and a flower. I don't know what it is. There's a lot of rows of Sharon that is growing down the road. And I love morning glories. Beauty and the Beast. Nice. It's a good one. But honeysuckle has medicinal value. Mostly in traditional Chinese medicine, they use honeysuckle. And I think lilac, I'm not 100% sure, but you could probably do like a flower essence with lilac. So usually, like, I have found that most properties that I have lived in, I have usually found some sort of useful plant growing around it, which is really awesome. So what do you like about Beauty and the Beast, Raven? Like, did you watch it when you were a lot younger for the first time? Do you have a favorite character? I just really like the the in Cinderella, I like the freedom aspect. You know, she was just getting away from the situation that wasn't really great. And also, like, I loved her little mouse friends. So, you know, I like the fact that she had a lot of little animal helpers. So even though she was like alone, oh, the transformation of the beast, awesome. So it's transformation story, yeah, yeah. And we really do like carry those with us. Cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I bet everyone here has a favorite folk tale or fairy tale. It doesn't have to be from Disney. Oh, I'm gonna read you guys a story before I get too off topic. So, well, it's not off topic. So story. So we're talking about the function of a story. Hello, Heather. Sorry, I got caught up in some research. I hope you're. It sounds awesome. Well, I guess I can give you a pass for research, Heather. We're talking about stories today. So the question is, what is the function of a story and what does a story do? And also, if you'd like to tell us a story about your favorite herb. And I'm just about to read us a story by it's told by Susan Weed. But this is Baba Yaga's story. It's Baba Yaga's story by stories by Susan Weed. I was trying to look at where she got the story, she's saying it came from Baba Yaga, but all I can find was books with, like, I couldn't find like a page that said, yes, these were the stories that Baba Yaga, that's a credit with Baba Yaga. Anyway, so she got this Baba Yaga story from somewhere. I was trying to find more like information about it. And she told us a story about you told me this story, so I remember this story. I was at a women's herbal conference, and Susan Weed was the guest there. And it was, the thing about stories is they help us remember stuff. That's one of the things that I feel like they do. And this is Baba Yaga's story of sassafras. And so I'm just going to read it to you. And yeah, so what else? So as you guys are listening to the story, think about, like, what does the story do? What does the story do in regard to, what does telling stories about herbs do? So what does stories do in general, and what does telling a story about herbs actually do for, what does it function? Because stories do things. Your favorite herb is rosemary. Nice. Hi, Pansy. Long time no see. I was about to like message you because I was like, where did you go? You haven't been able to make it for a while. Well, I'm glad you're here. We're up to 7 peeps today. That's a full house for us. Well, welcome. All right, but I'm going to read this story, you guys. It's a good one. If you don't already know it, it's a good one. Old man and old woman lived together, and each did their chores, and they were happy. One cold winter's evening, coming in from tending the animals, old man ventured, "Old woman, when I'm out on such a cold night, my feet stay warm because you knit me such fine warm socks. I don't want you to think I was complaining, but my hands are cold. Do you think you could knit me some socks for my hands?" Old woman thought for a short while. Then she smiled and said, "Old man, I would love to knit some socks for your hands." And she took out her yarn, and she took out her needles, and click, 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 clack, 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 clack. She knit socks for Old Man's hands. Old Man was very happy, and his hands were warm. Still, one evening, coming in from tending the animals, Old Man ventured, "Old woman, I sure am happy. My hands are warm now, as warm as my feet in those fine socks you knit me. But I have to take these hand socks off to do some of the chores. Times when I need to use my thumb, then my hands are cold. Do you think you can knit me some socks for my hands that had thumbs?" Old woman thought for a while. She thought for a good long while. She thought all night and all the next day, and well into the next night, and all through the next day too. Late that evening, before the warming fire, after all the chores were done, she smiled and said, "Old man, I would love to knit some socks with thumbs and trigger fingers for your hands." You know, so like it's a mitten shape. Oh, you're buffering. Uh-oh. Hopefully it'll unbuffer. So like the first one is, so first it was like this, right? And then now it's the mitten with the thumb. Or we're all familiar with these two shapes. Okay. Baba Yaga, who I called old woman, learning about her and her place in my practice. Oh, awesome. So you may be able to give us some more information about where Susan Weed got the story from, because that's where I was trying to find out a little more information. But okay. And she took up her yarn, and she took out her needles, and clickety clack clack, she knit new socks with thumbs and trigger fingers for Old Man. Then she took the old hand socks, the one with the thumb on the left hand and the one with the thumb on the right hand, and she tossed them out back by the edge of the woods. Neither old woman nor old man was happy with the new hand socks. The trigger fingers weren't next to the thumb, but across from it. They looked at each other and smiled. Old man went out to do the chores with strange socks in his hands, and old woman, she hardly had to think at all this time. She took out her yarn, and she took out her needles, and she knit socks with 5 thumbs for Old Man's hands. So that's, I guess, the regular. It took some time. When she was done with the first one, she gave them to Old Man with a grin. Then she took the hand sock with a thumb on each side, and she tossed them out back by the edge of the woods. And Old Man was very, very happy. In the spring, out back by the edge of the woods, a tree grew with hand socks for leaves, and the sweet smell of love lived long by 2 old folks. We call it sassafras. I wish I had the patience and math aptitude to create knitting stuff. Yeah, me too. Oh, you'll look into it. Thank you, Sonia. Yeah. I mean, I saw there were some books, but I would have to buy them. So maybe I should have looked up like Baba Yaga stories. I don't know. I didn't have a lot of time to do any searches. So sassafras. Yeah, so it has 3 different leaves, which is very unusual, but it's a way to remember them, right? So that's really cool. And I remembered the story. So yeah, stories are really good for teaching. Yes. So we're on page 114. And if I could have found more stories, I did find another. I found a Native American story. It was like super long. Also, another way of explaining why sassafras had all of its different shaped leaves. So, I can crochet but not knit. Yeah, I can't do either. I wish I could, but I mean, I never tried to learn, so I just didn't learn. So probably could if I learned, but and then I don't know if I would be good at it. I can't crochet or knit except on a loom. Ooh, but that's cool, Sonia. Looms are awesome. Making socks, yeah. So if anyone hasn't heard that one before, it's really cool. And I'll put the link in the description to it, so you can. She's selling like a CD, but she has the story, and I remember her telling it to us. So, all right, back to stories. So, does anyone have any ideas on what stories do? Anybody else besides me? Give it a whirl. I know you guys have ideas. Okay. Our cultural perception of plants in the United States has shifted through the years to where the vast majority of Americans now think of them in terms of either desirable, perfectly prepacked and prepared at the supermarket or florist, or well-groomed in the lawn, or useless and unworthy of attention outside of mowing them down and spraying them with herbicides. When we do envision them outside these parameters, we tend to value the exotic and rare far above the common and abundant. Where specific plants were once woven into the cultural fabric through story, history, medicine, and ritual, we now tend to reduce them to fields of pretty flowers and lush meadows or weedy outlaws to be eradicated in favor of more uniform terrain. Sorry, I missed some. My bathroom sink is plugged. Uh-oh. Well, if you missed the story, I'll put the link in the description. The Susan Weed story about the sassafras. So, and it's not very long. Or you can watch this back. You can watch that little section back when it uploads. Usually, there's some lag time from when I go live to when it actually appears on my channel. So I think it sometimes can be like 12 hours. Thanks, I'll read it later. Okay, cool. Yeah. So now more than ever, our developing stories need a transfusion of plant-based information understanding. In dystopian or post-industrial landscape, it's easy to lose sight of the natural world. As a part of our myth-making art, and conscious storylines, as civilized humans have moved ever farther from intimate relationship with place and plants, movies and books are much more likely to portray all flora as generic and pared down to a few well-known species. I found this very interesting. In the past, many of the English-speaking world's most important stories have contained plants as important elements, and more specifically, medicinal herbs and wild food. Yeah, which is really well. I get really excited when media actually like portrays, like there's a movie that talks about actual medicinal plants, or like a video game. If you're like crafting and you're actually really picking up like real plants, and I always think that's really cool. There's not that many, and I can't even remember a specific example, but I do get excited. Or like a book, like, oh, I know that plant. So, and you have to think about like why, like really, like not only are we not like talking in the wider sense about these plants just between ourselves, they're not in our media, they're not in our culture, they're not in anything else, like except on that bottle of like Roundup or weed killer. There's the dandelion. but no one's like talking on a talk show and how cool like dandelions are or plantain or chickweed, so it's really a really an interesting, like, it's just not anywhere. So I find that really interesting, and it would be nice like if we had more of that in our culture, and that's what she's talking about. It's society. Yep, it's our society right now. But she said in the past it was different. And she'll talk about it, but she says that it's in my kitchen. The plants are in your kitchen? Aha! I found the plants. Let's go to Heather's kitchen. Heather, you have to share some with the world. You cannot keep all of them to yourself. I've got 3 plants outside my window, so my okay, all right, you can have most of them. I know how happy they make you. You can see my plant, my shirt. This is my shirt. Plant bees, and it says save the bees. Anyway, that's my shirt. Plant bees. What do we have? Oh, it's a poppy and vervain, lavender, buttercup, sage, geranium, coneflower, which is echinacea, fennel, sunflower, rosemary. So yeah, rosemary. So Raven's favorite flower is on that thyme. So okay. So we're on page 115. Examples are most easily drawn from older stories, including many of the stories told by the brothers Grimm, Dante, and Virgil. Tribal cultures with animist learnings are rich with tales of the plant-human communication, and the medicine of the plants. I'm going to butcher his name. It's from the Lord of the Rings. Argonon's knowledge and use of king's foil in the Fellowship of the Ring is but one example of Tolkien's extensive plant lore he created in accompanying the mythology of Middle-earth. The Victorian and Edwardian societies of his time, while imperialist and repressive on many levels, nevertheless encourages the close observation of the natural world and promoted the study of botany. Tolkien and many other authors of the time illustrate this in their work, giving their writing great depth and detail, which is really cool. Oh, swoon. Strider, yeah. All right. Skin dark as old wood, plant medicine, and methopoetices. Well, I guess that's how you say it. Methopoetices. Oh wait, I'll put that link into the story. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah. Here is the Baba Yaga story from Susan Weed. Vigo? Yeah, he's great. I myself always liked Samwise Ganges. But yeah, he would also be in there too. And he's right. Like I remember definite references to flora and fauna. Anyone else think of like a book that they have read that stands out, or a movie where like there was a lot of mention of like herbs and or just plant life or the natural world? Very lovable, Samwise. Yeah, I know. Outlander. How did I forget about that? Right. And that's one of the reasons I love that Outlander. Thank you, the Crafting Weedwife. Yes. And I love that. Um, uh, and she's a nurse. She becomes a doctor, and she's interested in. I forgot to. Well, I'm glad you reminded me and everyone about it. And then that's interested in the use of medicinal plants, and that's what leads her to go through the stones. Anyway, if no one's seen it, I'm giving some of it away, but the stones, yeah, it's very earth based and all that. Of course, there's also a lot of earth based religion in there. They just start off with it with a bang. Yeah, um, it's got a lot of like, you know, fighting, but also like burly man fighting, but it's got all this like um, uh, herbal lore and mysticism and just, I mean, it's just beautiful. But that's the reason that I was really interested in watching it. That's one of the things that grabbed me, besides like the time traveling and, you know, the cute Irish guys. Yeah, I'm sorry, Scottish guys. Oh my gosh. Um, Sorry, my back door was open and I thought my cat got out. Uh-oh. I'm glad he didn't, Sonia. I was, yeah. Oh my gosh. That's always scary. He's been the cat being crafty. Yeah. So, and they sort of like in the later episodes, they sort of have let off talking about that, about the plants, but I've got like, so the new ones haven't come on Netflix, so I'm behind. So I'm hoping that the ones that come out in the fall, I think they come out in the fall, I can't remember. Maybe they'll mention some more about it again, but it was amazing. And then they have one guy reading he reads bones, and yeah. It just like lets all that, it's like, it's very matter of fact about it. Like, I'm behind, you're behind too. It's very matter of fact about it. Like, this is the herbalism. This is the. It's not like we're gonna be all dark and mysterious. You know, it's like, and I just love it. I just love the take on it. It fits in with the world. Anyway, okay, I digress. Susan writing, Albert wrote a bunch of mystery fiction books each based on its own herb. That's awesome. That's really cool. Sneaky beggar. Especially since he wouldn't answer me, so I walked around the whole house. Cats, you know, they can be, love them. They can be really American writer. Ooh. She's got a plain vanilla murder, and then Queen's Anne Lace, some of her books here. I need to just find out. I put her onto Amazon. Yep, there she is. So she wrote, okay, Rosemary Remembered, Cat's Claw, The Last Chance Olive Ranch, The Darling Dahlias and Poinsettia Puzzles, Morning Gloria. So if you like mystery and herbs, she likes dahlias. She's got a whole bunch of Nightshade. Of course, some of these are like the Wormwood. It's a China Baylis book. 17. Blood Orange. Oh my god. Okay. I'm just gonna put her. Let's see, paperback. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to. Oh my gosh, this might be too long to share. Yeah. I don't know if this will take anyone anywhere because I erased some of it. Let's see. I did. Okay, so that'll take you to her page on Amazon. They're fluffy but good books, Heather. Fluffy, yep, I agree. Fluffy is good sometimes. Plain vanilla, just downloaded a sample on it. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for sharing, Heather. That's awesome. I do not read mysteries myself, but like she's totally like, you can tell that she must have a love for herbs. Ooh, it's free on Amazon. Audible. Oh, really? Audible. Wait, wrong one. Oh. Mine's like $24 or one Audible credit. So I wish Audible was cheaper. It is expensive. Yos. Anyway. Oh, the free trial. Oh, you're talking about Audible itself's free trial? All right. Okay. That's awesome. Thank you, Heather. Yes, Amazon. Okay. It might be different here in the States though, so everybody check your Amazon and see what it says. All right, we are gonna just run through the rest of this because I do want to finish this week. So I'm gonna read Skin Dark as Wood, Plant Medicine, and Mythopoetices. This is by the lady who did, this is a quote by the lady who did Women Who Run with the Wolves. This is the author, Clarissa. I cannot pronounce her last name. So this is a quote I'm going to be reading. In mythos and fairy tales, deities and other great spirits test the hearts of humans by showing up in various forms that disguise their divinity. They show up in robes, rags, silver sashes, or with muddy feet. They show up with dark skin, as old wood, or in scales made of rose petal. As a frail child, as a lime yellow old woman, as a man who cannot speak, as an animal who can. The great powers are testing us to see if humans have yet learned to recognize the greatness of soul in all its various forms. So that was really cool. Quote. The plants themselves have often been characters and tales. Sometimes people have become plants, plants that become people, or a bit of each. And sometimes the plants are entirely other, serving as characters in their own right, without assuming human characteristics. The last category is often most difficult to do convincingly. To pull off their portrayal, we have to pay rampant attention, noticing the textures, the inner sides of leaves, observing the difference between sepal and petal, rootlet and rhizome. Above all, it asks us to see the plants as themselves instead of projecting on them our own personalities and perspectives. As we resurrect an interest in specific plants, their botanical names, unique growth habits, independent biocommunities, and complex environs, we are not only encouraging interest in herbal medicine, but simultaneously affecting our culture's perception of plants overall. So just by our discussion today, we are affecting perceptions of plants. Every time you talk to your neighbors about plants, you tell like a story. Even, the stories that we told today about Sonia's grandmother and the roses, and the crafting Weedwife about her lemon thyme and lavender, and just all that. And it kind of like, changes everyone's ideas and makes them like, oh, wait a minute, right? By incorporating herbs into our daily lives, by reading their histories, noticing their habits, and sharing our experiences with each other, we bring herbalism back into the larger story of the Western world. Not just herbs as some genetic capsule filled with powdered cellulose, but the living, intelligent creatures that grow all around us. The familiar and revered plants of our gardens. These aromatic flowers and spices carried over oceans and ships and across continents by migrating peoples so long ago, bring a bit of home with them. The feral weeds of our dooryards, blooming bright and defiant from their homes in the cracks of stones. The vines and roots tangling on the outskirts of the city limits, and these secretive species that grow best where humans' feet rarely tread, in ancient forests and wetlands humming with insect and songbird. So I just really love that paragraph on page 116, because, and I don't know if anyone else had the thought, because this is something that I've been thinking about, like, how do you do this? How do you bring herbs into the larger culture? And this is how you do it. You learn about it, and you use them in your daily life, and then just by being you are influencing other people, and hopefully changing the conversation. So our work is not simply to retell the same stories, and this speaks to why I asked you guys to tell us a story today. It's a very tiny story, but there's a reason I asked. I'll tell everyone about herbs in the garden. I tell everyone about. Yeah, I do too, and sometimes they don't want to listen because they're just, yep, that's why my landlord lets me encourage my yard to go wild. Well, that's really nice. You get encouragement. When I used to work at the supplement herbal department of a grocery store, and my job was to talk about herbs, so I was talking about them all the time. And then when I switched jobs and it wasn't about herbs, I wasn't able to talk about them all the time. And then my coworkers also weren't that interested in them at all. Like, they were the type that just grew up not using them, not really being, they're just like, they don't work, they're stupid. I don't know, it just felt like, they weren't. And I just kept talking and talking. It was really hard not to, because so not everybody you can talk to about them. But anyway, just like, it's like who I am. So yeah, I will, but I will tell everybody when I get a chance. If I get a chance, if I get the slightest chance, then we'll. So our work is not simply to retell the same stories, but to adapt them to the current context, to question their validity, challenge long-held assumptions, and even break them apart so they can grow back to something new. Our herbal traditions and plant knowledge are at their best when dramatic and growing, rather than locked into pre-assumptions and supposed facts. The story of plants and people will never be finished. Will never be a finished one. Each one of us, every curious child tasting wild mint for the first time, every experienced elder blending a favorite formula contributes to the evolving mythos. So everybody here, you guys, so I told a very old story by Susan Weed, or a very old Baba Yaga story that was then told by Susan Weed, but you can make up your own stories, about the herbs, and then they can be sort of passed on. So it's sort of like a living thing, which is really nice. I hear most people ridicule it. Most people in my experience. Yeah, I mean, I was sort of like working in a health food store, so like more people were coming in that had a predisposed nature to some of that stuff, that more health conscious. And then I just switched jobs, and I was just I was in a bubble before, and I was out of the bubble, and they were fine. These people I work with were great. They were just not very interested in herbs. So they were very nice. They didn't like say, oh, they're stupid, but you could sort of tell that they weren't very interested. They just, so we switched to other things like video games, which I love too. So Susan writing Albert, her books are impressive, inexpensive on thrift books if you prefer real books. Okay, so Pansy says that you can find her book on thrift books, which, let's go. Oh man, hold on. Let me get that link. So if you want to do used books, thrift books is really good. Oh yeah, they're like $4.99. So yeah, I even got like a signed Susan Weed book there. And it was a used book, but it was a signed copy, which was really cool. A neighbor asked if I needed his horses to come and eat the grass. I told him I had things planted now, and that was and I was getting rid of it, he looked at me like I was picking a phone. Yeah, people are there's still like it just seemed like, because I was in such a bubble at work, and then because I talk about plants a lot to people who also talk about plants, you don't realize that like there's still a lot of people that it's still not in the mainstream. I prefer real books. Yeah, you should check out thrift books. It might be a little more expensive. I don't know about the international shipping. But and it pained him to talk to a female. Oh, wow. So that's another issue on top of that. Yeah. I just don't get it, Sonia. My neighbor, we whacked my one bed of mountain and apple. No, an apple mint. He said it all smelled like weeds to him. It's his, not the apple mint. We'll grow back. We'll grow back, Heather. Don't worry. Did he not smell? Like you could, was he like using nose plugs while he was weed whacking? Oh my gosh. A powerful female, that Sonia. I believe it, Heather. Sonia has a YouTube channel. So if you want to see Sonia in person and in action on her YouTube channel, check her out. Heather also has a YouTube channel, by the way. She does lovely little garden videos and cat videos and stuff like that. He didn't get it all, but he was a good old boy. Well, it's mint. It'll come back, but that is totally sad. As you know, I love the apple mint and mountain mint. So one last paragraph, page 117. Herbalism is many things. A science and an art. It is applied botanical medicine, certainly, but it is also part of diverse healing traditions reaching back to the dawn of our species. As such, it is a part of our history, of our human and earthen story. It is an epic tale of soil and wildflowers, raw and gritty from repeat revolutions and incessant revival. It is the story of our blooming in the mysterious terrain that we are all rooted in, a flowering in the hearts of each of us, a great myth we create anew with every step we take. Never trust a man with a PR. I hear you, they're dangerous. You can put those little survey flags, you know what I'm talking about. I would if you know when he's coming around, you might not. Put those little survey flags around it. Or some caution tape. And then he won't do it. Next year I'm going to make a serious effort to harvest apple mint instead of letting it all go to flower. Yes. It's lovely. We had a 2-part book club because we covered mint in this book, and it was, if you haven't watched them, I would just go back and watch them because we had such a fun time doing mint. I tie ribbons on my trees. Yeah, smart. A neighbor once reached over my fence to cut a choke cherry down. Oh no, that's terrible. Those weed whackers are killers. Yeah, and they're loud. Unfortunately necessary when you can't mow a hill. So and sometimes mowing is necessary, and sometimes the little weed whacking is necessary. I think my parents had 3.5 acres when we grew up, and they kept a lot of it wild, but some of it, we had to mow, and So, but nature repaid him. Choke cherries grew like weeds. Don't mess with the choke cherries. That's right. Don't mess with them. Yeah. Well, yeah. Heather, she's on like the west coast above Washington State. I looked it up. Wait, I still have the map up. Here, I think, oh, this probably won't let me do it. Yeah, might be too long. It's too long by 10. Darn it. Let's see if this works. Yeah. I think this is right. Yeah. That should be where. I hope you don't mind. Anyway, that might be too much information. We can take that down. But anyway. Yes. All right. But it's very nice. Ooh, Food Forest Permaculture? I don't even know if I watched that, Heather. Is that a YouTube channel? I've got too many things, too many tabs up. Too many tabs up. Yeah. It looks beautiful. He's good. Why did you take it down? Oh, I thought maybe. Well, I can put it back. I thought maybe it was just. Hold on. I thought maybe it was too much information. There we go. Now everyone can see. You know, I thought maybe it's too personal, but it's not like we have your house address. So, but now you can see. I always think like I want a big like map to show every, so I can have little pins where everyone is. But anyway, so is there a lake right by you? Oops. Ooh, that looks pretty. Whoa, no way. That looks gorgeous. Well, I'm looking at, I don't know, pictures of the lake, I guess. 4 lakes. Wow. I adore maps. I thought you might, Heather. More small ones in the hills. It looks beautiful. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. So, got to start wrapping up. Next week, we are going to do verbane. I'm going out after this to harvesting fig leaves for tea. I'll dry them. Ooh, nice. Now, I did watch a video on sassafras from Susan Weed, and she said you can use the leaves as a thickener. Okay, Pansy, thanks for coming. It was good to see you. I hope you're doing well. It's been a long time. But yeah. Bye. we're almost done. And I should have saved it somewhere. And then you can make tea from the leaves too. Well, anyway, there's some controversy with making teas or tinctures from the bark, but she said from the leaves you get kind of like that root berry taste too. But that's awesome. I've never had fig leaf tea. So, okay. We're doing vervain, which is a herb that I haven't really ever worked with, but I've heard of it. Yes, the fillet powder. Fillet. Yes. And she said in New Orleans they use it in the gumbo. I'm mispronouncing that, but yes. So you know about that already. All right. So yeah, we're gonna do vervain, which should be cool. That might be a two-parter because it looks like it's a big section. But anyway, yeah, I'm not that familiar with it, so we will be learning a bunch. All right. Me either, but I need to try making some money, so I'm going to dry them and package them and sell them at Moody's. All my lemon balm sold. That's awesome. Yes. Cool. And then if you can do your mint, you know, you'll have so much mint. I'm really glad. That store must be awesome. So, all right. Well, I hope everybody has a good week. Everybody has a good rest of your day. Thank you for joining me, talking about stories and herbs and all kinds of stuff. And links for our Facebook group is down in the description. And yeah, I think that's it. Yes, plans for next year. I'm while crafting goldenrod too. Nice. Yes, sounds good. I think goldenrod will be starting to bloom soon. Yeah, because it's August. Gosh, I haven't seen any around here, so I guess not yet. All right, and I go on. Soon, yeah, it's got to be soon. No, we don't have it so much. We have a lot of it, but in Ohio, it is insane. So much goldenrod. Anyway, all right, guys. You guys have a good day, and next week we will be on to vervain. Bring your vervain stories and tips and whatever. If you have anything, if you work with vervain, if you have any, you can post. Feel free to post them on the Facebook group. Any pictures, any recipes, anything, any of your experiences with this plant. So it's supposed to be a nervine, good for your nerves, as well as other stuff. So yes, I agree. Be safe to you too, Heather, and yeah, bye.